this realm, a cataclysmic dimensional tempest has unleashed unholy entities upon the world. But that's not the most astonishing aspect of this tale. While others toil and risk life and limb to harness primordial energy, our protagonist leads a life of leisure, armed with an enigmatic phone device that lets him play a game, upgrade his avatar, and reap real-life benefits. Prepare to witness his meteoric rise to the top, courtesy of the ultimate tool in his possession. A decade ago, a dimensional maelstrom struck Earth, revealing the existence of deities, spirits, specters, monsters, angels, demons, and other mythical beings. These entities were categorized into 4 tiers: mortals, legends, epics, and mythicals, with humans relegated to the bottom of the mortal class. However, humans could enhance their status by cultivating primordial energy or by hunting dimensional beings and appropriating their dimensional crystals, albeit at great risk. Once the world-building prologue concludes, our story commences in a classroom, where this bald teacher is calling out her protagonist Zhou Wen. When our boy doesn't respond to his call, the baldest starts yelling his head off just like any typical teacher. I mean, his frustration is pretty understandable since this idiot is staking in at the middle of class. Leaving the teacher wondering why the old principal thought so highly of this lazy guy, the scene flashes back to when the old principal told the bald teacher that there are only 2 types of geniuses. One is our hero of this story, and the other is everyone else. Fast forward to the present, and as soon as Sorboy hears the bell, he suddenly bolts out of the classroom without a word. The teacher's left scratching his head, thinking maybe the principal misjudged Zhou Wen's potential. Meanwhile, our boy dashes down the corridor and bursts outside into the tennis court area. Once he's alone with his phone, he reveals to us that his life has been turned upside down ever since he got this mysterious phone, and the game inside this phone is the reason he's been zoning out in class and skipping his cultivational. He needs to do is put a drop of his blood on the phone screen to access the hidden game app before diving, and he frantically looks around to make sure Noon's around. Then he grabs an Idlapoksh's finger and adds another drop of blood to create a character in the game. As soon as the phone absorbs the blood, the crimson fluid starts to morph into a character, turning into an adorably chibi little avatar that Zhou Wen can play with in the game. The game's big selling point is that upgrading this avatar's abilities will also upgrade our boy in real life. No need to risk life and limb for cultivation, as she can just chill and play to improve. Himself, he quickly finds some monsters in the game and unleashes a flurry of punches with his avatar. He obliterates one ant with his powerful blows, and the other ant also gets a fiery barrage of punches for its trouble. As dusk approaches, wait, please wait. Like 93% are not subscribed. So if you enjoy my recaps content and you want to see more in the future, leave a quick like and comment for that YouTube algorithm. And if you want to be sure that you won't miss out when I upload another recap video, please do me a huge favor and subscribe right now and hit that notification bell to turn on all notifications. We reunite with the bald teacher, who shares his concerns about Zhou Wen's recent lack of motivation. In the Commonwealth, it's rare to find a prodigy like Zhou Wen, who can harness primordial energy at just 16. However, the teacher worries that Zhou Wen's reliance on external help might hinder his growth. We flash back to a month ago when a mysterious girl named An Jing challenged Zhou Wen, shattering the school's confidence in him. The two faced off on the basketball court, with An Jing delivering a devastating kick that sent Zhou Wen crashing to the ground. The crowd was stunned, and everyone wondered who this enigmatic girl was. The bald teacher explains that since his defeat, Zhou Wen has lost all motivation, spending his days sleeping and gaming. But Zhou Wen's gaming habits might be more beneficial than the teacher thinks. In the game, Zhou Wen's avatar absorbs primordial energy crystals, boosting his real-life abilities. His stats have increased significantly, and he's grateful for the game's impact on his cultivation. However, Zhou Wen regrets that the crystals he collects in the game can't be used in real life. If they could, he'd sell them to secure a comfortable life. As he continues gaming, he encounters a tough opponent, a red mutated vigor ant. Just as he's focused on the battle, Fang Ruoxi approaches, and Zhou Wen feels anxious about his secret being exposed. Fang Ruoxi invites Zhou Wen to join her team for the final practical test, and he asks why she wants him on her team. She explains that she wants to excel in the combat test, and Zhou Wen's skills would be invaluable. As he continues gaming, Zhou Wen must decide whether to join forces with Fang Ruoxi or keep his distance. Needs strong teammates. Our boy however, tells her he's not as strong anymore since the title of top student was taken from him a month ago. But the girl claims that he's still the only person at Guide High School she considers worthy of being her opponent. But it tries to remind her that Njing was the strongest, but Fang Roxy reveals that Njing has already transferred schools, Ju stunned by this news, and the girl further adds that while she's not sure where Njing came from, it's clear she surpassed the mortal class. Her appearance and departure were so sudden, had it felt like she was just here to challenge our boy. Gruoxielsa mentions that she initially thought Zhou Wen had some sort of rivalry with Njing, which might be why she challenged him. The boy thinks about it for a moment, but then claims this is not possible because he has never met her before, let alone have beef with her. The girl then drops this topic and asks him once again whether he's joining her team. Joan, seeing the opportunity, agrees, saying he's fine with benefiting from her skills and leadership. Fangru decides it's settled and explains that she's already found 2 other teammates. Starting today, all team members, including our boy, will train together every afternoon. With that, she quietly and finally defeats the Redant, the rushes to grab the dimensional energy crystal. But as soon as does, a bunch of ants swarm him. Booter Boy quickly ends the game and plans to check out the new crystal later. Suddenly, he feels a sense of unease. His phone and his body start radiating a crimson energy, and he's overwhelmed by an intense feeling. It looks like the crystal might be accusing this reaction from what he knows. The Vigorant crystal seems to be a primordial energy skill crystal from the legends, but he's unsure what skill it might grant without Sting. Anytime he drops a bit of blood on his phone and activates the game to see what's happening, as soon as she looks into it, he sees that he has unlocked a new primordial energy skill. Lateral 4 members of the group come together, and Fang Grui introduces Zhou Wen as their 4th teammate to the other 2 members. The 2 guys raise their eyebrows, nodding that while they know about Zhou Wen's skills, she hasn't been training for over a month, so they're unsure if he can perform at this previous level. One of the guys, who has blonde hair, mentions that their main goal is to secure first placing Guide City's college entrance. Combatus the expresses concern that our boy might not be the best candidate and suggests inviting another guy named Zheng Yi instead. Well, our boy can understand their hesitation to take him in. You see, the college entrance combat test is a big deal. It can significantly impact the latter part of someone's life, affecting everything from getting into prestigious universities to job hunin and even determining their place in society's top echelons. Plus, having strong teammates is crucial for safety, so it makes sense to want to ensure they have the best possible team. Ru tries to convince the group that while Zheng Yi might be strong candidates, he still believes Zhou is their best option. The blonde guy then proposes a simple test to measure their strength. If 4-boy does not mind, Ru curiously asks what kind of test they're talking about. The blonde guy proudly explains that since he himself is the weakest among the 3 of them, Zhou Wen will spar with him. If 4-boy wins, she proves he's qualified to join the team. If he loses, she's outer boy raises a concern about the risks of combat and the potential for injury, suggesting that Noon benefits from getting hurt. But the blonde guy points out that the school's strength measuring devices might give numbers, but those are meaningless. They'll settle this with a straightforward fight, and the one who concedes lows. Shearing this, rinks about how Teen's combat skills stack up against Zhou Wanj. He's quite concerned for our boy. You see, our boy hasn't used any dimensional crystals to boost this cultivation, and his family is likely poor, so might not have any key fighting skills at all despite her concern. She's curious to see how he will handle the situation. Meanwhile, Zhou Wen is considering using machines to gauge their strengths, but Teen's coughs, asking if he's afraid. Our boy just scratches his head, secretly worried that it might hurt them with a single punch. In the end, they decide to use the machines. Tien steps up first and punches the machine with all his might as everyone watches in anticipation. The machine displays a strength score of 7 points. Joan reflects on how the number on the machine isn't exactly the same as the values shown in the game, but they're quite close. Before he started the game, he had similar power. Tien invites her boy to take his turn with the strength measuring machine. When my guy delivers his strike, the impact creates a loud noise that echoes. The bald teacher strolls down the corridor. He hears a commotion and wonders who's using the testing machine during rest hours. Curiosity gets the better of him, and he quietly enters the machine room, where he's astonished to see Zhou Wen and his friends. The room falls silent as the machine displays a strength score of 10, leaving everyone, including the bald teacher, utterly flabbergasted. The bald teacher reevaluates his opinion of Zhou Wen, thinking that maybe he hasn't been slacking off after all. Perhaps he's been training so intensely that he only has time for short naps in class. He even starts to believe that the principal's assessment of Zhou Wen might be accurate. Ruoxi is perplexed and impressed by Zhou Wen's choice to use the most challenging method to demonstrate strength, yet he still scores 10 points without using any Qi fighting skills. Tian, visibly agitated, swallows his pride and acknowledges Zhou Wen's qualification. With a final burst of dignity, Tian delivers a devastating punch to the machine, scoring 11 points. Zhou Wen appears curious, and Tian warns him to either surpass 11 points or face the shame of defeat. Zhou Wen asks his friends if the school will hold him responsible for any damage if he breaks the machine. Blondie confidently offers to cover the cost if the machine gets broken, and Zhou Wen begins to smile as a yellow energy envelops his body. With his power amplified, Zhou Wen unleashes a punch infused with Qi, shocking Ruoxi. The machine starts malfunctioning, its circuits overwhelmed by the sheer force. Everyone watches in awe as Zhou Wen effortlessly destroys the machine, which is designed to handle strength up to 20 points. The bald teacher is baffled, realizing that only a rank 8 or 9 Qi fighting skill could wreck the machine like that. He recalls the principal's words about Zhou Wen being the ultimate genius and finally understands why. Even Ruoxi, who has always known Zhou Wen as strong, is amazed by his display of power. As the evening unfolds, Zhou Wen takes a leisurely walk down a quiet city path, pondering his encounter with Anjing. He wonders why someone of her legendary level would challenge him, still in the Mortal League. Suddenly, his phone rings. It's his dad, asking if he'll attend his wedding. Son curiously asks who the lucky bride. Ish's playboy father quickly sends a photo of a woman with some impressive pair of hooters and asks if his son likes his future stepmother. Well, that's one way to spice up a father-son chat. Any boy asks when and where the wedding happening, and his dad casually mentions it'll be in about a week. That's when our boy reminds his father that his college entrance exam happens to be next week, so he can't attend the wedding event. He'll hear all he wants to, and then asks his dad if there's an iron cookie box in the closed room. His father Clususual says he has no idea. Joe tells Schmitz a square iron cookie box about 10 in long with a cartoon bear pattern on it. If this dad then explains that it's the box of bear cookies he used to eat, but that brand isn't sold anymore. He's really curious about sudden interest in that box, so he asks why he's bringing it up. Poor boy reveals there's a phone inside that cookie box and asks if his dad put it there. His father asks if the phone has a white metal shell, a black screen, Nokia's, and is about 7 or 8 in long. When the son confirms his dad says it belongs to his grandpa, or Guy is totally stunned. Dask show his grandpa ended up with the phone his dad, then reveals a wild story about our boy's grandpa. Basically, his grandpa worked as a carpenter. During the reconstruction of ancient Guide City, they worked on a ton of old-style wooden buildings. Grandpa was there for over a year and one night. While a few workers were burning the midnight oil, they discovered an ancient dry well on the construction site. Something was shimmering inside, and they thought they'd hit the jackpot with some kind of treasure. There was a box inside the well, and when they pulled out that old, wooden box from the well, the light was seeping through the gaps and inside the box. There was a phone. The screen was lit up at first, but it went dark as soon as they took it out. The phone had Nokia's or charging porking like it was completely dead. Everyone was pretty bummed when they found the broken phone. They figured it was just some prank and quickly moved on. So Grandpa ended up tossing it into his stool. This dad further adds that the phone couldn't be turned on, and when he was younger, he then tried to sell it to a repair shop to get some cigarettes. The shop owner's Ed. It was worthless, so he just dumped it into that cookie box. Now he's wondering if Joe wants to sell it too. Inside, Joe's pretty relieved his dad never managed to sell it. Otherwise, he'd never have gotten his hands on this bad boy. Hesk asks his dad if the phone was ever turned on. His dad says, definitely not, and mentions it's been sitting unused for decades. His dad wraps up the call saying he's got other stuff to do. He's already given the wedding info, so it's up to Joe if he wants to come or not. Tunts. The call wraps up. Joe reflects on how his real combatist will be held in ancient Guide City. He decides it might be worth checking out the old well for any clues or leads. She heads back home and starts reworking his game plan. Days pass and he falls into a routine, napping through class and snoozing under a tree, while everyone else trains, all the while gaming away. Several days later in the school corridor, two students are sprinting down the hall. A guy in glasses crashes into another guy dressed like he's from some aristocratic society. The glasses guy hits the ground hard from the impact, but the blonde guy barely flinches. He just stands. They're giving off a weirdly creepy vibe. The blondie begins to walk away with his entourage, and the people behind whisper among themselves about how intimidating this guy looks. The next scene takes us outside where we meet Tian again. He announced she's quitting the group, because a friend has already invited him to another team that the walks off, leaving our boy wondering if Roxy has a backup plan since the test is right around the corner, and finding a new teammate now is nearly impossible. He calls out to his other teammate. Lee Gand asks if he knows Teen left the team. Lear drops another bomb. He can't team up with our boy either and asks not to be questioned about why he's quitting. Finally, we meet Ruai. Hole looks sad and dejected. It's clear why she's upset. Their team's numbers have dwindled. When she spots our boy, she quickly apologizes, but the tells her not to stress. He reveals that he should be the one apologizing because he's there as in everyone is leaving. Apparently, there are people out there gunning for him, which is why his teammates left the group. She then points out that she has no clue who her boy has offended, but she's sure that whoever it is holds a lot of power, so he should be careful. He agrees, and they part ways. His mind is racing about the upcoming test, and he's stressed about finding trustworthy teammates in time. Heck, even his most trusted friend does not want to team up with him anymore, given all the danger he's attracting. As she walks away, the bald teacher calls out to him. Once Joe meets with him, the teacher reveals that Inspector Angus from the military, and his full name is Ang Tianzuo, asks if Joe knows him, and our boy confirms he doesn't. The old man finds it id, because if Joe doesn't know him, why would such a high-ranking military officer criticize a high school student by name during Gus inspectioning-eyed city? Your boy then asks who this man really is, so the bald teacher breaks it down. The Earth-Fed Federation is divided into 4 regions: East, South, West, and North. Inspector Angus Young but comes from a famous family. At just over 20, he's already a senior officer in the East region, military, making him a remarkable figure. The boy then asks if Inspector Angus string to target them. The teacher says he can't be sure, but Antianzua did mention that our boy wasn't a good student, and everyone agreed with him, especially those wanting to please Ins. Pector Angerguy gets furious and asks if a senior officer like Ang doesn't realize how his words could ruin a high school student. Life Hethan asks if Angus related to Njing, the woman have fought a month ago. The Balda says there's a chance, but they shouldn't jump to conclusions right now. The most important thing is to find our boy a team so he can sign up for the test. The deadline is the day after tomorrow, so there's no time to lose his teammates. This can't be just any ordinary students. The old man reveals that there's a student named Li Xuan in their school. If this student accepts our boy and his team, Balda believes Noon will make things difficult for him. However, there's a condition our boy has to do his best to help Lu Anja to good score, and Luan must have the highest score among the 4 team members. The boy asks if the old man should give his points to this newcomer, to which the old man agrees, stating that this is his only chance to participate in the match. The boy agrees to the terms and tells the old man to contact Lean for him after that meeting. Joan calls his father, asking about Inspector Ang Tianzuo, and if he knows him. That's when his father drops a bombshell. Ang Tianzuo is actually our boy's brother. This news hits our boy like a thunderbolt. Toot off the blue, his father explains that Tio's the son of his stepmother. Once his father marries her, Tianzuo will be officially his brother. And as if that wasn't enough, his father also reveals that our boy has a sister named Njing. It suddenly clicked to our boy why that girl Njing appeared out of nowhere and challenged him in front of the entire school. It was probably just to tarnish his reputation. He quickly asks his dad if those two actually like their new father. In response, the dad claims that they both respect him all. After ending the call, the only thing Ganjo's mind is why these siblings are trying to mess with him. He wonders if they disapprove of the marriage between his father and their mother. He reflects on how Nzu flaunted his authority, tried to block him from joining the exam, and Jing defeated him with a single hit-all because he's just way too weak to stand against them. Nonetheless, he heads back to his Messistinky apartment and dives into his game, figuring leveling up is the best way to tackle these problems. After taking down a mutated and the gets a special drop a symbiotic egg, Ja gets excited to see it. His because heck knows it's rare for someone at the mortal level to get a symbiotic pets, since most people get theirs at the legendary level. As soon as his blood, Avatar tries to grab the egg. It starts to crack and hits him right in the chest. Suddenly a voice echoes in his head, calling him master and pledging loyalty, even saying it would die for him. He feels this intense pain coursing through him, and he quickly sits back on his bed with his head itching like hell, but then he notices a new two on his hand, and once he checks his mobile phone, he sees she's now got a pet known as a moot. Aided immense strength, and this pet can also be used in its symbiotic form as a fist weapon excitedly. He covers the windows with curtains for some privacy and decides to summon his new pet, though he's not quite sure how to go about it. The starts thinking about his pet, and as she concentrates, his hand begins to gather energy. A glove-like e-weapon starts to form above his hand. Turns out this glove is the symbiotic form of his pet and is said to enhance the user's ability. He then decides to summon the mutated immense strength ant itself, As the glove dissolves into mist, the crimson mist begins to shape into the ant. It materializes into a furious but surprisingly cute creature. Our boy is somewhat scared to see this, and not going to leave this patis much larger than I had expected it to be. In any case, our boy decides she'll try riding it some other time. Maybe once he's outside the next day arrives, and we see the bald teacher taking our boy to meet Lean. The old man reveals that Lean is somewhat pretentious, but assures him that he's not a bad guy since they're only working with him for the test. There's nothing to worry about. Their car zooms down the highway, eventually reaching a place called the Honorable Royal Health Club. Inside, Servant greets the old man, who tells her they're looking for the second son of the Lee family. Hearing this, the servant quickly shows them the way inside. As they enter, it becomes clear the old man wasn't kidding about Lee and being pretentious. The place is majestic, and the man in question is surrounded by a bunch of girls, looking like a hip-hop rapper who thinks she's on top of the world after earning a few hundred. Buck Shun quickly tells Bala to have a seat and a drink, but the old man refuses and gets straight to the point. He introduces our boy right away, assuring Schwant that this kid is very capable and can easily help him achieve in the exams. Schwan waves off the old man's pitch, saying he trusts Bally and will take our boy Esh's teammate for his sake. With that settled, the old man decides, still telling both of them to discuss the test details before leaving. The old man turns to our boy and tells him to get familiar with Luan and his team because the test is right around the corner. With that, the old man leaves, and Jan turns to Joe, claiming he's heard about him and that he's apparently the best genius in Guida High School. Our boy just shrugs it off as a rumor and tells him not to take it seriously. Luan agrees and points out that it's impossible to have geniuses in a small province like this one, and then reminds our boy that if he were a genius, he wouldn't have been defeated by Jing with one move, and then tells Joe that he doesn't have to participate in any teamwork training. All he needs to do is follow commands and not cause any trouble. Lehethan offers Joe a challenge if he can finish an entire bottle of alcohol in on go. He'll let Joe choose any girl he desires from the club. Joe just keeps his eyes glued to his mobile, barely looking up, and says he doesn't drink. It seems this playboy isn't too thrilled with Joe's attitude and starts wondering if Bally, who begged him to take on this good-for-nothing dude, was worth it to mess with. Joe Luan tells son of the girls to entertain our boy. The girl calls Zan a naughty boy for being so mischievous, then starts shovering around Joe. She tries to grab his attention with her big hooters and somewhat average looks, but Joe doesn't take his eyes off his device as she gets physical and tries to touch him. It becomes clear that our boy is way too busy to deal with this silver-winged mosquito monster. He's doing his best to stay focused, but the woman is persistent and starts to get on his nerves as she bothers him and forces him to look at his game. Avatar finds itself in trouble just before he's about to lose the game. He flings the annoying woman away like a true gak chade and quickly maneuvers his avatar out of danger. The playboy nearly chokes on his drink, stunned that our boy literally tossed the woman aside just to save his game. Everyone bursts into laughter at the absurdity of it all. It looks like our boy has finally lost this game and isn't feeling too great about it. On the other hand, it seems like Swanee starting to take a liking toward nightfalls. The room is littered with empty bottles and shot glasses. Lena sound asleep in his bed with his girl, but as we take a closer look, it looks like he's still awake. Meanwhile, Joe, deeply engrossed in his game, deterred to be ate the silver-winged mosquito. Despite his efforts, she keeps losing to the pesky bug, and his avatar keeps losing its head to the monster. After playing through the night, all his attempts have ended in failure. The mosquito isn't quite at the legendary levels, or it should be possible to take it down. Joe thinks that if he can land a rank 9 power punch, he could really hurt it, but since the punch takes forever to execute, he's wondering if he can mix it with some high-speed moves, since his game character is based on him as a figure, that if he improves his real-life power punch, the game character will sync up with those gains. He starts practicing his punch, hoping to boost this in-game performance. As Joe trains, Lean sneaks a curious look at Thim. Intrigued by his relentless dedication, he has no clue what our boy is practicing, and the whole 1-inch punch thing sounds like Gib. Barishtohim has shrugs it off, thinking he might have some special skills, but seeing nothing impressive about his move, she decides to go back to sleep. The college entrance exam finally arrives, and our boy diligently fills out this answer sheet, and we see Leon also taking the exam. Onset, the exam is over, and everyone spills out. It's clear that it was a pretty grueling exam. As everyone looks pretty dejected, a few days later, a bus full of students zooms down the highway, heading towards the ancient Gaida city decades ago, when the dimensional storm hit a dimensional crash. Copenintha,